I want to say something before we dive into the subject. There's no one coming to save us. Now that is a triggering message for a lot of people, but here, to me, this has been the most freeing and liberating thing, because I can finally focus on the things that I can contribute. Listen, the world situation is extremely serious. We're walking on very thin ice right now, and there are massive indicators for that. There's an incredible pressure buildup. If we don't understand this correctly, if we don't comprehend what is happening, why it's happening, how long it has been happening, and most importantly, the actual way that we can positively contribute, this is so often misrepresented. So I want to give you a quick overview of the pressure subjects that are current and have been ongoing in the background. And this is not a complete list. These are just some that are fairly pressing. Okay? So I want to start with the quote of the day, my friends. Civil disobedience is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is that people all over the world have obeyed the dictates of leaders, and millions have been killed because of this obedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war and cruelty. Our problem is that people are obedient while the jails are full of petty thieves and the grand thieves are running the country. That's our problem. It's a quote by Howard Zinn, and I would just say that is partially our problem. Most definitely. It's a big one. Obedience, compliance. Let's look at the pressure points that we have and that are very real, and we can't think them away. We can't pretend they're not here, and pretending that won't change that, but there are things that actually will help. So I call this the pressure cooker. World in chaos. And the pressure cooker, as you know, that's a pot where you cook your food with pressure. NATO is currently mobilizing its resources and strategic plans as it braces for the possibility of an all-out war with Russia. This comes from Lieutenant General Alexander Solfrank, who heads NATO's logistics command. Israel is currently rapidly escalating war with Lebanon, and U.S. is sending more money and weapons as we speak. This is a huge developing situation. As a matter of fact, while I was prepping this live stream here, Israel has apparently bombed the Hezbollah headquarters in Lebanon, in Beirut. So this is what is ongoing. It's escalating. The warmonger in Israel, Satan incarnate, Netanyahu, complete lunatic, psychopath, that is pushing some very, very dangerous buttons there. And of course, this has been provoked. This war has been wanted. This war has been prepared for a very long time, and it's supposed to be the catalyst for an all-out world war. This is a truth. This is not an opinion. This is a truth. Very well-known truth, by the way. Okay. Former President Trump was briefed by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence regarding real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate him. There was an interesting video that was posted on the Ayatollah's, X account that showed Mar-a-Lago and showed someone playing Trump golfing and this whole thing. So it's become an entire story, and the official version that's been given to the press is that there are apparently multiple teams out trying to assassinate, which is basically a retaliation, I think, still for the actions while he was president, as he took out Soleimani, one of the biggest leaders in the military, and which was at that point such a huge world. So it was such a huge thing in the Arabic world and in the Muslim world. We didn't perceive it as that in the Western world. We just thought it's a strike, but it was a huge, monumental thing in the Muslim world. Trump responded publicly at an event and said, "If I were president, I would inform the threatening country, if you do anything to harm this person, we're going to blow your largest cities into smithereens." That's do with that what you will, but that's where we're at in terms of rhetoric and what is being presented to the public. Unprecedented worldwide increase in excess mortality, turbo Cs, the big Cs, and other illnesses, and there remains no meaningful accountability. I really want to, for a moment, talk about this before we put this slide back up. This is one of the biggest pressure points that people forget to talk about, but it is affecting almost every family in most parts of the world. The events that have transpired in 2020 and beyond have created or have led to one of the greatest crimes against humanity, if not the greatest crimes against humanity in history. Everything else pales in comparison. Everything else. And once again, this crime, it was probably not, that's not where it started, but it was perpetuated and it was carried out by the governments of the world. We, to this day, have had no meaningful accountability, no meaningful trials, no meaningful convictions, no meaningful anything. As a matter of fact, the same people are still either running the show or are running to run the show again. So we have the greatest crime against humanity, the rollout of the greater crime, even, the incredible bloodbath, and the irreversible effects that this has caused. And we have a zero accountability world. Do you know what kind of trauma and pressure this creates in people? So this is a huge pressure buildup thing because, like I said, it affects almost every family. Somebody has died, somebody has severe illness, and it is ongoing. Fertility rates are down. I mean, this is massive. Thank you, Freedom, and thank you, Raymond, and I think Grierson for your contributions. It's actually, there's something there. I think there is this, this is a trauma response. We're seeing a trauma response by the people. What should be happening, what would be normal during any other time, is that the streets would be filled every single day, almost everywhere. And if justice would not be served in the proper channels, then people would take it into their own hands, considering the magnitude of this crime. But the trauma response is that it is so horrifying, that the truth is so horrific, the truth is so unbelievable, but it is the truth, that people respond by going into a childlike, we're just ignoring it. We're not paying attention to it. It is too horrific. That is the trauma response that the people are having. But the pressure, nonetheless, is building up underneath. And at some point, sooner rather than later, we're going to see the release of this, which is what we're talking about here. Anyway, so let's move forward. Worldwide erosion and destruction of small and middle-class businesses. This is such a huge thing. Most nations in the world, the vast majority, are built on small and middle-class businesses. Certain European countries are seeing a decline of up to 90%, meaning businesses going out of business, small businesses not surviving, not making it, governments making it all but impossible. There are nations where you are having such a hard time even getting a business account. This is coming directly from people on the ground. For example, someone I know very, very closely that has been operating in Switzerland, for example, for decades, privately and as a business owner, and who's helped countless businesses to incorporate and start in Switzerland. As I've been saying in the past years, it's been all but impossible. You can incorporate, but banks won't allow you to open up a bank account, which is just another way for the system to destroy the small middle-class businesses. We are now seeing a full-on corporate government partnership takeover. This is what they call the stakeholder, the WEF, the World Economic Forum, when they call this, that's what the stakeholders are. It's the largest corporations in the world, which were mainly started by intelligence money. So you have these huge corporations that are playing the entire field and that are putting everyone else out of business. It's going a little slower in the United States because of less restrictive regulations compared to Europe, but it's happening nonetheless. And this is what is basically creating a Hunger Games society. Inflation and poverty rising rapidly. I don't have to tell people about that. That is, everybody knows this. You go to the store and you get a heart attack at the cashiers because it's insane. It's beyond insane. Psychological and cultural warfare is driving entire sections of the population into insanity. This is a fact. This is a fact. Entire sections of the population are now in a state of almost immobility. They can't do things. They can't make decisions. They are so internally destroyed by this madness. It's literally the Wetiko on steroids, the mind virus on steroids, and that's what's unfolding in the population. And what is causing incredible pressure within people. Massive worldwide expansion of central digital currencies. Over 100 nations are rolling them out. Digital IDs, digital health passports, and digital surveillance. The EU is now rolling out their digital health passports, a vaccine passport where you will have to have that mandatory very soon. And so we're seeing this all now very fast because of the recent changes in also because of that in the international health regulations with the World Health Organization that they just decided on in late May, that now with these 300 amendments, you have the regulatory framework so you can push this out in all nations, and that's what they're doing, complete digitization of your life. Financial Armageddon is a mathematical certainty. I've talked about this for many years. This is not an assumption. If you study how the monetary system works and how the financial system works, if you study exponential interest, and if you look at the financial instruments that have been introduced in the past decades and that would be considered extremely criminal if you and I were doing it, what is a mathematical certainty is that this system, when it will implode, which could be any day, by the way, when it will implode, it will have the biggest impact ever, and nothing will come even close to it. Not 1929, not 2008, nothing like that. This is what the mathematics show us. That's a certainty. The only way where this could be sort of, cushioned, that fall could be cushioned, and that's what perhaps they're going to try to rush in with is a digital currency and some sort of jubilee, a debt jubilee where they will forgive some sort, that could be a possibility. But first, the pressure has to be really, really big in a population so they will accept that. We see that this is the expansion of these digital currencies. People think that one camp is better than the other. The Democrat camp in the United States is all out CBDCs. There's really no restrictive thought there. And then there's, of course, the Republican or Trump camp, and they're just doing the soft sell through their crypto and saying we're going to become the crypto capital of the world, which is just the soft sell into everyone jumping into digital currencies, and nothing. It's not a significant difference, especially if you study the specifics. Bio-nanotechnology in food, water, and air. This is also now a certainty. We have so much evidence that bio-nanotechnology, partially self-assembling bio-nanotechnology, is in the food through treatments, food vaccinations in terms of animals, in the water, has been in the air through smart dust and whatnot, and that our biofield, some people call this the aura, our biofield is being hacked through technology now. That is not just possible, it's being done, has been done. It's nothing new. It's only more sophisticated, which goes directly with the expansion into 6G, 7G, 8G, worldwide grid, Starlink, etc. We've heard reports of a test in Austin not too long ago. They had a test in Austin where they turned on 6G, the 6G frequency bandwidth, and the effects on the population there, that was a short period of time where that was turned on, were so devastating that the people that looked at the reactions and the data that walked away with the only conclusion is, if the people do not revolt against this in the strongest possible ways, the bloodbath and the aftermath will be impossible to handle. What that technology actually can do to us. The world's still on track for transhumanism and post-humanism, which a lot of people don't think about, but the entire movement of this transgenderism or non-genderism, or gender fluidity and non-binary, whatever the names for it are, this is just a ploy to get people out of gender identity, identifying with their gender, of which there are by nature two, and then there's some anomalies, but two. Incredible, that's just like an act of a revolution to say this, but that's the truth. And so this is literally just to get people accustomed to the idea that how we perceive the body avatar is absolutely changeable, is very fluid, and keeps changing as we go down the line. And this is only to get us accustomed to transhumanism, which Mr. Free Speech Elon Musk is on the forefront. He's the spearhead for transhumanism, along with the Ray Kurzweils, along with the big Google, the big tech people. There's no significant difference. He's just like David Icke always says, he's a soft cell, they're the hard cell, doesn't matter, same shit. And they're going into this merger with AI. There's trillions of dollars invested in this. And really it's about uploading consciousness into the cloud, that hive mind, and going into post-humanism, where two things will happen. The human body won't be necessary any longer, and there also won't be this reincarnation cycle that we talked about so much anymore, because the consciousness will be trapped in the hive mind and can't go out of there. That's the idea. This is what they're literally working on. So this is what's happening in the pressure cooker and the world in chaos. And I think it's very important that we see these things, because closing our eyes, pretending it's not there, doesn't do a thing. So here's where we get to what happens when. Historically, pressure release happened through war, civil war, recession, depression, mass sickness like a plague, or massive natural disasters. A sudden release of pressure, there's a because in there that shouldn't be there, is usually followed by a period of depletion of personal energy and resources. The public responds positively to suggested solutions. So here, I want to go a little deeper into what I mean by pressure buildup and pressure release. We have had, since late 2019, but before not as coordinated, but since late 2019, the world has had a constant pressure buildup. This is measurable. You can measure this in psychology. There are other indicators to measure this. But what that means is that we haven't had a release. A release, like I say, can happen either when a situation normalizes through positive negotiations, through a positive resolution. That is the sigh of relief that people have experienced sometime in the past. A solution was found, pressure was in a controlled manner released, and people could go back to what they considered normal. We haven't had that in many years now. And we're at this point where the pressure in world relationships, the pressure in people, most importantly, this is what they're really wanting to do, is to create so much pressure psychologically, physiologically, spiritually, on all levels, so that they can lead people to the edge. And then people are so on the edge that a lot of them are actually rooting for war, or can be tricked into fighting each other. So the pressure release can be introduced. And currently, the rhetoric and the signals that are being sent back and forth in the world, whether these signals are authentic or not does not matter. The public perceives them to be authentic. And so the signals are, we're going into full-on escalation. Now, the worst kind of pressure release, of course, is civil war, disasters. That is the worst kind, but it is pressure release. And then what happens, after years and years, people start, the depletion period where people are morally, physically, spiritually, of course, financially, like they are depleted. They're down. They're empty. And then what then happens is always new solutions are presented to the people under the guise of, so this will never happen again, right? Coincidentally, the same people who made that pressure event happen and the pressure release event happen are the same people who are introducing the solution. It was like that after every war. It was like that after every economic depression or recession. It's always the same thing. The same entities and people are producing the problem, are helping produce the reaction in the population, and of course have a pre-designed solution that they want people to go in. In this case, the pre-designed solution we've talked about so much is the acceptance of this new order, an AI-steered digital new order, where life as we know it is over, where people are pushed first, that's the first step, into these urban smart cities, and where the freedom that you perceive to have now to travel, to go places, to experience things is greatly limited. With that, an introduction, because see, when people will be in those smart cities and 15-minute cities for a while, they won't just get bored, they will be depressed because that's not how this human spirit flourishes. So with that will be the introduction, the mainstream introduction into the metaverse. It might come as a different name, but it will be the metaverse, which is basically a digital virtual reality that will seem like a real thing. Like it will be so well done, and people will be able, and already are, to purchase real estate, believe it or not, in the digital reality, and they can have office meetings, and they can have vacations, and they can have sex, they can have anything in that reality, and they will seduce people into that, so they will distract them from their virtual reality. So it's a simulation within a simulation within a simulation. Now that is what the trajectory is, unless, it's a big point, because here's the question. Is there another possibility? Is this inevitable? No. How could it be inevitable? What does it require? None of these things happen unless people make decisions and choices. Nothing happens without choices. So people have to decide on this. Okay? So what could be a counter movement? What they absolutely anticipate is, because of the psychological pressure that people are under, because most people don't want that kind of world, and once they can see clearly that's what they're presented with, they have anger, fury, aggression, the need for retribution, and to fight this. Now that the system fully anticipates. That's actually a reaction that it wants, because that's what it can easily deal with. The violent reaction it can easily deal with. Here's what it has a very hard time dealing with. Alternatively, the pressure could be released through conscious practices, I'll get into that, non-compliance, non-participation, and a focus on personal and communal empowerment. Here is the thing. In the face of all of what I just presented to you, the first thing that people feel, and that is by design and on purpose, is powerless. This seems so huge. This seems so well planned, and it is. This seems so well thought out, and it is, that most people feel like there's nothing they can do. When nothing could be further from the truth, what have we discussed in recent shows? Why is all of this happening, and why is it becoming more sophisticated? Why is the space filled with more and more distraction, entertainment, information, disinformation? Why? What is it distracting you from? It's distracting you, from the real you. So, the practices that we suggest, for example, we suggested to all of you a while ago to start the 15-day Higher Consciousness Challenge, and some have followed through. Others have done it for 2-3 days and fallen off the wagon. Well, here's the thing. If you don't do it, if you don't fully activate your mind, your spirit, your consciousness, and everything in between, someone else will. If you don't run you fully, someone else will run you. So these practices are incredibly important. We've been saying this for years. Consciousness raising practices are of the utmost importance. It can't be overstated, because you connecting with who you really are, that highest expression of you, that is the antidote to this madness. And then understanding that as long as we comply, as long as we participate, as long as we go along with this will continue to go along. And non-participation is first and foremost an energetic thing. There is this version and this story out there that there are saviors at work here and they will save us from this. No, they will not. Anyone or any entity that is currently in a significant position of influence and power, even if they weren't corrupt to begin with, has been corrupted. That is how the system is set up. It is sad, but I've shared this a few months ago. Christine and I were part of a major political campaign many years ago. And whatever you assume to be true about those things, it's just a small, tiny part of the truth. These operations, as good as they often start, as good as the people are that go in, as good as their intentions are, they're being infiltrated, they're being blackmailed, they're being corrupted. That is currently the truth of the game. Individuals, you, however, where you are, with what you have an incredible amount of power, more than these people. You can make life-altering choices. And if we make them on just a tiny level of the population, just a small percentage, things begin to shift radically. So our pressure release is we need to first acknowledge and accept that we as individuals absorb a lot of that pressure, whether we know it or not. We are in this reality, so we feel it, we sense it, we see it, it affects us. So within us, we also have a pressure meter that's been going up unless we practice, unless we sit quietly and allow for that pressure to be released, let's say, into the earth beyond us, allow it to flow out of us, allow for more calm and peaceful energies to go and be within us. If we individually do these practices, that's going to have a huge effect on the whole. We help those who don't know about these things and don't even know they're being pressurized. So we have so when you go in the morning and you do a morning practice, you do breath work, you release everything that's been bothering you and that's been pressuring you, and you breathe in fresh, peaceful, wonderful energy. You're not just serving you, you're serving everything. That's what people oftentimes don't see. So there's a win-win, incredible win-win. And then go into these new thoughts of, if I don't comply with this, if I don't participate in this, that is a new level of personal responsibility. So what are other possibilities? And when people start, I'm telling you, it's incredible how proud people feel and how accomplished and how free they feel when they start with a small practice like planting a few plants, maybe just in pots in their apartment, a few little tomato plants, something that gives them, I put the seed in there, I watered it, I gave it love, and now out of this, I'm picking that tomato for my salad today. It might be a small thing, a few herbs, people that start growing gardens or have chickens or start doing community gardens because their family has some land but they're not using it. The possibilities, if we're looking for them, are endless. Or people going to a farmer's market, connecting with others, creating independent network. making agreements with each other. Agreements that if the societal structure, when it eventually will break down more significantly, that we rely on each other, we help each other, we support each other. That is true empowerment through this. And most importantly, like I said, all this being directed by higher consciousness, not by our human egos, not by fear, by higher consciousness. This is truly how we can release pressure now. And we can have an incredible impact on all of society. Then there are, things that we can support ourselves with that, are quite simple. Some of them free, some of them inexpensive, like clean water, like really just starting to think about what that means. How can I get the best possible water? And what does that do to my body, for example? Can I reduce my intake of processed foods or bring it down to zero? And what would that mean for my nutrition? How would I do that? What do I need? Supplements, stuff like that. This is important thinking and important planning. Some of it does require, of course, a certain amount of finances, but not all of it. Some is just better planning, better thinking, more research. That's what I encourage you all to do. And like I have been saying, use incredible offers. Companies, you go to companies like FLFE that we've partnered with, and they give people the gift of 15 days, a complete free trial of their services. No downloads, no credit cards, no subscriptions, no nothing. And that is a supportive, high consciousness field that's through quantum entanglement maintained around your home or where you are if you have a mobile service. Imagine just experiencing that for 15 days. If you can't go beyond that, then that's fine. But take the gifts that are being offered from all sides, right? Accept them into your life and say with gratitude, this is incredible. This is incredible that so many people and companies are doing what they can to support people right now because they feel we're going through this incredible shift and this transformation. If we ignore these things, by the way, no problem has ever been solved by ignoring it. There is a persistent lie in the spiritual community that if you don't pay attention to something, it ceases to exist. No, my friends, I have never seen a person that has had trauma in their life, a painful experience, and that was able to transmute and heal that by ignoring that. It has never happened. I've worked with many, many people one-on-one. That's not how it works. A problem does not go away if we ignore it. How we go about it, how we choose to see it, and how we choose our healing processes, and that we actually give it the attention that it deserves until it can heal and transmute, that is how we solve problems. And that is the same on a large scale. None of these things that I mentioned will just go away. Neither the digital financial system, the digital control grid, the hive mind, the transhumanist stuff, the wars, none of that will just simply go away on its own. That's not how it works. What is the greatest contributing factor to either it getting worse or it getting better? Consciousness. It's who we are while we are looking at the world, and who we are while we are doing things, who we are while we are looking for solutions, who we are. It's not so much what we do, that matters greatly, but who we are while we're doing it. Are you balanced? Are you whole? Are you loving? Do you have a loving outlook on existence or creation, if you will? That is what matters most. And the people that I see currently in a public arena, I don't see that in them. I don't see that level of consciousness. There are a few, glimpses of hope, but for the most part, I don't see it. But what I do see it is, for example, in our beautiful audience, I see it in you, I see it in your comments, I see an incredible level of consciousness. I would actually bet that among all the different communities, that exists today, we as a family together have probably together raised our level of consciousness significantly in the last years. And we'll go and measure it. We can measure that with our friends through kinesiology. So we might just do that because I can feel it. I can feel the raise in our consciousness. And now we just have to know, not believe, but know that raising of our collective, individual and collective consciousness, it impacts the field. It impacts everything. It impacts everything. If we know that, I'm experimenting with this, and I have been for 15, 20 years. And I don't mean to brag, that's why I'll never give you specifics about that. But I was able, by knowing that I can, to influence things that people say are can't be influenced or changed. And I was able to do it with a specific vision in mind, and I could see it play out in front of my eyes physically. And I'm not saying it to brag. That's why I don't mention specifics, not at all. What I'm saying is, once I open myself up to the possibility and then remove doubt and then stopped believing and started knowing, that's when that started to happen. And that's what you can do too. That's incredible. We can literally have a direct impact on world events through that. And then we might even be in positions where we can even physically and with policy or certain changes directly influence that. I see that. I see that as a very real possibility. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here for the entire journey. I